Hello, this is Julia Bushkova, and today I'm continuing with Schradieck, Book 1, Exercises on Promoting Dexterity in All Positions. We're starting with the first position, obviously. So in the last video, we talked about getting to any kind of speed that you need, but there I was showing everything in the how it's written, in the pattern of how it is printed on the page. So what do I mean by that? As I talked about the patterns in the left hand, if you haven't seen, please watch my pattern videos. They're really useful. So here we are in A major. The way it appears on the page, it's A major, and we're playing A, B, C sharp, D, E natural. So that means we are in this pattern. Okay, so this is the pattern, and that's how the music goes. However, it also, in all good editions of Schradieck, it says practice on all strings, right? If it doesn't, you still have to do it. So how will you practice on G string then? Will you be then in A major? Of course not. You will be in G major on G string, and D major on D, and E major on E string, right? So you, in other words, you preserve the pattern that is written on the page. In this case, if you're on G string and you're in G major, that's how it will obviously sound, right? Okay, so now I want to tell you how you can use the same material and practice what you really need for development of your specific technique, overcoming your specific problems. Let's say you have a weak pinky that a lot of people have, even advanced people have. So your pinky goes into this terrible shape, right? It buckles in the middle. So for that, of course, I have the video that is called Milstein exercise. I highly recommend you do it first, and then when you're ready to transfer it onto some musical material, here will be Schradieck. Now how you do it here. For that reason, we need the fourth finger closer to the third. So we change the pattern. Instead of playing in this pattern, you will be playing in this pattern. And this pattern will result in changing of the note that the fourth finger is playing. On A string, A major, and now we're not thinking really A major, we're talking about A, B, C sharp, and then D, and then E flat instead of E natural. So yeah, it does sound a bit strange, but that's okay. So here we go. The same springiness, everything has to be the same for your good technique. Now let's say if I do it on G string, then of course I will have, instead of D natural, I will hit D flat. And so on. It does sound a bit weird, but not so much weird here as in some other places. For instance, in number 7, it will be instead of, it will sound oh well, it's a little price to pay for really good supported, healthy fourth finger. So another thing that you should do, change strings. How would you change strings? Are you going to repeat the whole 25 little exercises which comprise number 1 4 times? It's a lot of time and a lot of focus, and you might lose that focus. So in order not to lose focus, we can start, for instance, on G string. Today I will start beginning on G string and go from number 1, little number 1, through number 6 on G string. So in this pattern, we're in this pattern right now, right? So I will be playing number 6 and finishing number 6. And for number 7, without altering the pattern, you're changing to another string. If you're completely confused how it will sound, repeat number 1 one time just to clear up how the notes will be. Okay, here we have A flat. All right, in this pattern. Now we go to 7 in here. and so on. Okay, from 7th through 12th you will be on D string, and then from 13th through 18th you will be on A string, and then finally you will be on E string from number 19 through the 25th. How nice! You have all strings covered in the pattern that you're working. You may be accelerating the tempo on each string a little bit if necessary. It's all up to you. Just make sure you do it gradually. Okay, next pattern that I suggest, if you are dealing with a problem with your fourth finger, don't just go, oh, now I'm ready just to go the way it's printed. Probably or maybe not. So next helpful pattern is this one. Again, we're keeping our third and fourth together so that the fourth is being helped by the third. In this case, again, I will show on A string right now. Your notes will be now A, B, C sharp, D sharp, and then E. So here we're in Lydian major. So now everything will sound pretty much the same, just kind of even happier than it was. Now let's see how number 5 will be sounding on E string. Interesting, right? Okay, so again, the same thing. You go in different, start from different strings every day. Oh, the important thing. So if you started today with G and then you went to D and A and E, tomorrow start from D. The beginning will be from D, then you go to A, then you go to E, and then your last portion from 19 to 25 will be on G. Next day after that, start from A string, go to E, then G and D, and that's how you will be rotating your quarters of this exercise every day. Everything sounds a bit different, and you meanwhile exercising the whole thing. What else you can start doing? You can start combining this pattern and this pattern, playing fourth of the Schradieck in pattern number 1, like this. Okay, and then once you get to number 7, switching to pattern number 2. And for instance, in the there will be that will be pattern number 2 in exercise, little exercise number 9 in here. Okay, after this, and only after this, if you're working with your fourth finger, I would go to how it is really printed on the page, which is, of course, in this pattern. Okay. And then here comes a very important and very valuable thing to do with this exercise. You might know that right after this one, which is printed in A major, goes number 2, the big number 2, right? That has also many little exercises there. And it is in A minor. But guess what? That one is much, much more awkward and much harder. In the patterns, not so much, I would say patterns, but in the way the fingers are used by Schradieck there, it's much harder than what we encounter in number 1. So for many people, it becomes a big problem. They start playing number 2 and they were in good shape and in good form here, and their elbow was in the right place, and everything functioned great. They go to number 2 and suddenly, boom, you know, the fourth finger is again buckling and so on. Why? Too hard, too soon. So prepare your minor on still number 1. And by that time, if you followed all of what I suggested, you probably will be in good shape. And here is your pattern for the minor. So you have A, B, C natural now, and then D, and then E. So you do have this holes in here, right, for this pattern, and in them you practice music that you have learned. By the way, I hope by then you definitely learned the whole thing by memory. You need to know it by memory in order to focus and concentrate and pay attention to your technique. Yeah, never, ever, ever, ever play exercises with music more than, 2 days. Commit it to your memory. So here we go. and so on. So now it will actually sound quite normal. It's going to be in minor. And that should prepare you for the number 2. When you go to this, you should not be having that much or problems or no problems at all. Next pattern is still a good pattern for many, and that is all separate. So in this case, your first finger will go to the flat. It will be B flat or E flat or A flat, depending on which string you are. And those were the numbers 5 and 6 in this pattern. Okay, so now that you have all the patterns, actually you can have one more pattern if you really want to. And that will be the pattern of all fingers being together, which is like this. It does sound really strange here. So these are A, B, C, C sharp or D flat, and D. And that everything is together. So basically, that's good for, it's good for the fourth finger if the fourth finger doesn't want to be supported. Or sometimes it's just good to rest that way because that's kind of like the closest position, okay? But I don't know if I will be playing the whole 25 little exercises that way. But it's fun. Anyway, now you have in your disposal how it's written, this pattern. You have the pattern of what we started from today. You have the Lydian major pattern with 3, 4 being together, and you have a minor with 1 and 2 being together, or even all separate. You can combine all of them if you like, or some of them, whichever are most necessary for you. You start on A string using, as it's printed, go to the G string, use the Lydian major, go to D string, use all separate, and go to E string and use minor, E minor, okay? And that way all in whichever tempo that you have accelerated to. So that should provide you with good focus, some entertainment in terms of you're not playing the same thing all the time, and great exercise for your left hand dexterity. All right, so before we go, last thing, if you practice Schradieck, you would know that there are some two places where 3 exercises on the fourth finger are one after another, and namely it's 6, 7, and 8, and then it is 12, 13, and 14. They're just only for the fourth finger. Sometimes for some people, when the fourth finger is really weak, their hand gets really tired, and the fourth finger gets tired, and people are unhappy, and they just quit practicing this or have to stop and so on. What I recommend instead, flipping the couple numbers, and you can actually keep them forever flipped. It doesn't really matter. So if you exchange number 6 with number 5, so you play 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, then 5, and then in a regular order, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then you flip. You play 12 and then 11, and after that you need to do nothing at all. That will alleviate some of the exertion of this muscle and will make your life easier, at least at first, or maybe you will keep it forever. So that's a useful little tip I can give you too. So I hope this has been helpful, and you will practice your Schradieck and your left hands will get great. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and I will see you all later.